I'll be the one by your side through the good and the hard times, when we're laughing, when we're hurting. I'll be the one that you need through the love and tragedy, when we're winning, when we're losing. Take my
From Biloxi, a 1960s play set in Biloxi, Mississippi, tells the tale of two childhood friends who grow up to be rivals. Keith, Rudy and Hugh Malco. Hugh and Keith, two 12-year-olds who are close friends, have completely different lives than one another. Hugh works at his father's nightclubs while Keith works very hard in school to become an attorney, just like his father, a renowned prosecutor. The vices and corruption that go hand in hand with the nightlife include drugs, prostitution, and gambling. Keith intends to advance his career by running for district attorney, which will result in the prosecution of corrupt officials and the cleansing of Biloxi's criminal underworld. With their fathers present, this pits Keith and Hugh against one another for a courtroom confrontation. Two childhood friends from immigrant families who wind up on opposing sides of the law are the subject of the novel, The Boys from Biloxi. This makes for an intriguing read because of the ensemble of vivid people and Grisham's clever plot twists. The Boys from Biloxi is a vast tale that narrates the rise and fall of Biloxi and the people that either keep the city running smoothly or try to destroy it. Two childhood pals with radically divergent life paths are at the center of the simmering rivalry. Despite having a similar love for baseball, Hugh Malco and Keith Rudy could not be more dissimilar. Jesse Rudy, Keith's father, is a man of righteous justice who tries everything in his power to purge the strip of the criminals who have amassed substantial wealth for themselves through a potent concoction of narcotics, prostitution, and illicit gambling. Hugh's father, Lance Malco, is renowned as a prominent member of the Dixie Mafia and is in charge of a major portion of this criminal organization. With the assistance of Lance's right-hand man, Nevin Knoll, Hugh soon finds himself infatuated with the limelight and intoxicated with the prospect of making a rapid profit. When Keith Rudy works his way through law school to follow in his father's footsteps and Jesse Rudy pledges to clean up the coast, an inevitable conflict between the Mafia and Rudy's family occurs that is sure to end up in court. A package is left at Jesse's desk by a man named Lyle when he arrives at the courthouse early one morning. The man detonates a detonator as he flees, causing 5 pounds of Semtex to explode. Jesse is murdered instantaneously, the office is destroyed, and several people suffer serious injuries. Lyle, whose real name is Henry Taylor, was harmed. Henry struggles to get to his pickup that is parked outside due to a nasty complex fracture and falls. When Henry is taken to the hospital, Special Investigator Jackson Lewis from the FBI raises the possibility that he might be the bomber right away. Jackson and his colleagues look into Henry while he is patched up, given a potent cocktail of painkillers, and hastily operated on to get him back on his feet. They check his phones for bugs and dust for prints before discovering that Henry Taylor was paid $20,000 to murder Rudy. Lewis and his crew engage Gross, a reliable private investigator, to prod Taylor into making a confession so they can catch him in the act. Taylor falls for the trap in which he is told to use explosives to kill 2 fake targets at a condo property. Nevin Knoll and Taylor trade cash for explosives. Both men are taken into custody with the proof in hand. Along with Sergeant Eddie Morton, who had spent 9 years stationed at Kessler, Hugh Malco is also detained. The FBI learned that he had been selling the explosives thanks to an anonymous tip. He also has a gambling problem and agreed that, in exchange for getting rid of heavy debts to his name, he'd give Malco and his men military-grade explosives. Due to a series of small strokes that force him into retirement, Judge Oliphant is deemed unsuitable to serve as the presiding judge. Abraham Roach exits retirement to assist in controlling events. Sergeant Morton receives his 15-year prison term for selling explosives in a short period of time. However, cooperating with Keith will get him a plea bargain. When the bomber Henry Taylor chooses to cooperate and work with Noel and Malco, what would have been 3 separate trials are quickly reduced to 1. Given Keith's involvement in the case, Chuck McClure, a renowned prosecutor with a strong track record of convicting defendants facing the death penalty, takes over as main prosecutor. Noel likewise loses it upon hearing this, refusing to perish in the gas chamber and happily accepting 30 years in prison in exchange for a Malco testimony. Hugh is found guilty during the last trial, and the punishment is death. There is no last-minute twist in this case, in contrast to past cases where the jury had been tampered with and the mafia had essentially gotten away with murder. Haley Stouffer, the informant who previously worked with Jess Rudy, contacts Keith with important news regarding Fats Bowman while Hugh is in prison and on the verge of death. He has proof implicating him in narcotics trafficking, and a contact in New Orleans can attest to it. Jackson Lewis leads the charge, pursuing Fats to one of his farms and detaining him after discovering $30 million worth of cocaine, making Stouffer's predictions ring true. Fats enters a guilty plea and is given a 20-year sentence. Fats is given a weekend leave to say farewell to his family, but instead of doing so bravely, he cowardly goes to his hunting lodge and shoots himself in the head. In the meantime, Haley Stouffer receives her parole and leaves, adopting a new name and settling in California with no animosity toward Jesse Rudy or his family. Following all of this, Keith stands for Attorney General and is elected, becoming the youngest Attorney General in state history and the youngest in the nation. As word of this spreads, Lance gets ready for his unavoidable release. He has Henry Taylor murdered in prison to prove to the Strip who is in charge before eventually returning to nothing. Given that Fats Bowman's family is no longer there and that his wife has already filed for divorce, Lance resolves to scrape together whatever funds he can to aid Hugh. With his empire destroyed and reduced to ashes, he places a $50,000 price on Noel's head. Noel then executes his own prison break and flees, never to be seen again. With the state agreeing to the death penalty for Hugh Malco, following extensive and drawn-out debates about the morality and justification of this, Keith heads in to meet his old comrade one more time. Hugh says he never intended to kill Jesse and comes across as earnest. He merely wanted to convey a message to him. Even while Hugh seems sincere, we are aware that he is not, since in earlier chapters when addressing his trial, Grisham states, he holds not single concept of being innocent. However, it is undoubtedly a fascinating issue that raises serious concerns about the legal system and the legitimacy of the death penalty. Eventually, Keith walks away, and Hugh grinned knowingly and said, "I'll see you on the other side."